Alright, my name is Elio, and welcome back to another episode of Infinite Magicraid here, and in today's video we're going to be covering the legendary unit called HAL9000. And just to fill you in on him, obviously he's a defender type, he's also the blue mark, so is he going to be useful in the blue Tower of Mark? Well, hopefully we'll see, and hopefully I can figure out if he's going to be useful for the campaign or not, because this is my first time taking a more in-depth view of his skills and seeing how they synergize together here. So let's go ahead and see what he's rocking with. So for his basic attack called Decoding Attack, it deals 280% defense damage to a single enemy, and it also makes him gain a layer of Decode. What does Decode do? Increased damage caused by genetic shock. Maybe that's his passive. We'll have to see about that. But anyways, with this skill fully booked up, it does bring his damage up to 360%, which is pretty chunky and pretty much where it should be as a legendary. So everything checks out with that skill right here. The second skill, okay, so it's not his passive, it's the second skill called Genetic Shock. This unbooked has a 4-turn cooldown, and it ends up dealing 400 defense damage to a single enemy. So this is a single target move, and each layer of Decode increases the defense damage by 40%, and afterwards a layer of Decode will be granted. So it seems like no matter what you do, unless there's a move that dispels all of your decodes, it seems like he's always going to be stacking up decodes. So already, especially since I did a Yoko review where she's obviously updated, so if you guys haven't checked that out, feel free to do so. Yoko has a very similar kind of kit where she kind of stacks different waves or different forms to kind of improve the damage or the probability of stunning on her ultimate move here. So this seems to be in a similar boat, with the books reducing the whole skill's cooldown to 3 turns, and he also receives a, 120% more damage. So that's 520% defense damage on a single target, plus your layers of Decode, which get a 4% increase to themselves too. So that's 12% more, coming in at 52% extra damage per layer of Decode. So once again, very interesting skill, but it seems like already that you kind of want to save this more towards the end to get the best value out of it. And then its passive called Self-Maintenance. Each layer of Decode reduces the damage taken by HAL by 2% at the start of a turn. HAL restores self HP by 5% of max HP. Meanwhile, he additionally restores self HP by 2% of lost HP for each layer of Decode. So not only is he mitigating damage, but he's also basically receiving some HP regeneration based on his Decode, which once again is very interesting. So especially with the way that the AI works in this game, it seems like you could use Decode to be either offensive or defensive, which especially in a manual situation seems possibly appetizing. But with this skill fully booked up, his HP regeneration gets boosted up to 9%, I want to say, plus the extra 2% per layer of Decode. And then for his ultimate called Protection System, this has a 6-turn cooldown. Fully booked up, it goes down to 4 turns, and it grants Taunt and Immortal for 1 turn, and also Consolidation 1 for 2 turns. So what does Taunt do? Force enemies to go after him because he can't die. Nice synergy with the Immortal, because what is the point of you activating this skill and him dying? It's like, congratulations, you've played yourself. Also looks like there's a typo with this skill, which I will have to put into the Discord here. So if you guys haven't joined the official Magicraid Discord, I should have the link there below, but let me know if I don't have it. It's always on pretty much all of the Infinite Magicraid videos, as well as the subreddit, where I do have a definitive beginner's guide that if you're just starting the game out, I implore you to pretty much read. But yeah, so Consolidation helps to take less damage too. So overall, that is a very interesting ultimate skill, meaning you could either go full on tank with HAL or tank / DPS because of the Genetic Shock skill. But he's also single target, and unless his exclusive weapon changes anything, there's really no counterattack to him. So I already feel like playing with him on auto, unless his skills are basically configured to where he may never use this skill in particular, though you're going to lose out possibly on some damage, will probably be a bad idea. So he already seems like a kind of more manual Andy. out of anything. But his exclusive skill called Gear Axe, at level 1 it reduces the duration of attribute debuffs and dot debuffs by 1 turn at the start of a turn. That's fine. That kind of helps him to survive a little bit longer and helps take a little bit pressure off any healers that you may have. At level 2, when allies HP falls below 40% for the first time after taking direct damage, HAL immediately casts Protection System. So this sounds to me like, okay, if your unit is about to die, HAL's going to step in and be like, nah bruh, go ahead and let me take that hit, which is cool. At level 3 though, HAL takes direct damage. Whenever he takes direct damage, shall I say, he has a 30% chance to shorten genetic shock's cooldown by 1 turn. This synergizes well once again with his whole protection system because everyone's basically taunting towards him, or he taunts them to hit him, and he has Immortal and Consolidation up to kind of mitigate damage too. So I think that is a fair trade-off. And then at level 4 and 5 we get that speed increase, which by the way, 990 puts him pretty much in the average ballpark in terms of speed, so you could make him your speed unit if you want, but I prefer to try to go for my supporters to be more geared towards speed, because it seems like with the ones that I've reviewed already, they tend to have a higher speed stat, which is, you know, upwards of like 1,050 or maybe a little bit higher than that. Anything around 1,000 is pretty much average. Anything below about 9, I want to say 980, 985-ish, I would start to consider slow, with like 970 or something along those ranges being dirt nasty slow here. But let's go ahead over here to the preview tab and just see how he works. And of course I will leave in the video kind of what you should be going for his gear, but this is pretty much like set in stone with him being purely defense damage, because yes, he has a passive that heals his HP, so the more HP that he has, the more HP this is going to heal. But with all of his damage coming from his defense, focusing heavy on the defense first and HP is more of a sub thing will probably be the best idea for him. But I just want to see him attack here, because we have Decode, which doesn't max out at 10 stacks. I do wish like the dummies could attack you to see what would happen. So yeah, Decode maxes out at 10 layers or 10 stacks, and then, you know, obviously if you want to kind of be optimal with him, playing with him manually, you would end up using this move right here, because that did a fair amount of damage. This is Protection System, and that's pretty much it. So I don't think HAL is a bad unit. It's just that he doesn't really seem very, he doesn't really seem very appealing. Like there's nothing in his kit that is game changing in himself. Like if he's paired up with other units, it's nice that he can kind of take damage away from those other units and kind of mitigate it himself. But I really think the biggest kicker for HAL is going to be this second skill right here, where it's focused on damage and kind of like a high burst skill, but it doesn't really add anything to the table. I feel like there's something slightly off of him, so if you end up pulling him, I wouldn't necessarily count him as a carry for anything. It seems like in the blue Tower of Mark, he could be useful for you there as just a tank, but outside of possibly getting some burst damage out of him, I definitely wouldn't consider him a carry whatsoever. So I'm not going to say that HAL in general is a terrible character. Could he be better? Yeah, but at this point in time, he seems to be a little bit average outside of his protection system, which with a correct setup, HAL could probably be very annoying. But of course, with you only having 5 slots, you kind of have to pick and choose what you want. I think if he had counterattack though, or some sort of counterattack RNG within his kit, things would be super appealing. But anyways, you guys, thank you so much for watching. This is the HAL9000 review. Subscribe if you haven't already, and feel free to check out any of the other Infinite Magicraid videos. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.